Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Coming in Hot with Caroline. Today, we've got a hot topic. We're going true Hollywood stories. Yes, the deep, dark secrets of Hollywood. Not all of them bad, some actually just really fun stories, but I have been around the block here and there, and I kind of wanted to share because there's so much going on in the news right now, especially with P. Diddy. There's a lot of hot topics, and yes, I was at a P. Diddy white party. So I felt like I needed to tell you some crazy stories because when I did the 25 things about me and I mentioned that I had dinner with Michael Jackson, I had a few questions. So I thought, why don't I do a podcast episode on all the crazy shit that I have seen? So here we go. Growing up, my dad was in the Latin entertainment business. So he ran Univision. It's a Spanish network. So growing up, my dad was obviously in the entertainment business. We grew up with it, and he was there and very involved with Menudo. So I don't know if you guys remember Menudo. Ricky Martin is part of that. It's the first boy band that was ever really made. And it was a huge phenomenon. So when I was little, I was probably like middle school. Menudo became huge. It was one of those things where it's funny that I was never impressed. Of course, I wanted to be super American because my parents were Latino and I felt really different. I hated when they were speaking Spanish around everyone, which is of course what I love now. But when you're young, it's interesting how you never want to be different. And it's funny how now all I want to do is be different and unique. So ladies, don't ever be ashamed of your background and having, knowing different languages. It makes you such an interesting person. So anyway, growing up, it was one of those things where my dad was in the industry. Menudo started becoming big and, Ricky Martin, Robbie, it was like Robbie, Ricky. Oh God, I can't remember all their names. Anyway, they were teenagers. I was a teenager. And what's so funny behind the scenes, things that just people didn't know about Menudo because the girls would go crazy. So we would go, they would sell out Madison Square Garden. They would be on crazy tours. My dad would have to go. He's the one negotiating the deals with Madison Square Garden. And we would sometimes show up. So going to these things, you guys, it was interesting to me being young because I wanted to be so Americanized. I did not understand this Latin phenomenon. And, they were all I just didn't get it at all. When we would go, so this is the kind of thing where all of a sudden everybody was your best friend, right? We had a lot of new best friends at school. So it just goes to show you, it's just fascinating not having that awareness. I can't imagine these kids growing up in celebrity homes because people do treat you different. People do kiss your ass. People do want something from you. So I can't imagine how it does not go to your head. But this point, everybody wanted to be my best friend. Everybody wanted to go to the concerts. Everybody wanted to get in. And what was so funny about Menudo, which I always found so fascinating, is going to these concerts, walking in with them to hotels, being, my jacket being ripped on. I mean, it was really like being with the Beatles. Like I have what I would assume it was like. It was insanity. Like I've never seen that kind of fandom in person, especially so young. Girls hysterically crying, sweating, screaming, screaming, I love you. They are sneaking into the hotels. They are banging on the doors all night long. This isn't just like early, like kids are all night long trying to find them, literally banging on the doors. And what was so funny to me, you guys, was that behind the scenes, we're stopping before we get to the airport to literally go to Toys R Us to pick up toy trucks. So these girls are throwing their underwear on stage. They are trying to bang the door to get in to hook up with them. They're at FAO Schwartz, like they're at a toy store buying toy trucks. They were totally just kids. And that's what was so fascinating to me. This is not the juicy story, don't worry. But it was just interesting, this behind the scenes look. And I think for such a young age, I really saw that, you know what I mean? Like I knew it wasn't real. I knew that people weren't always what you saw. You know what I mean? I knew that there was craziness behind closed doors. So I think that's why I was never really impressed with celebrities. I think just because I grew up around them, my dad was friends with so many Latino celebrities, always hung out with them, spent time with them, like whether it's Gloria Estefan and the Sound Machine, I can't even name them all. It's like all those famous Latin stars. And I think once you see it, once you are behind the scenes of it, you're not as impressed, which I think served me well much later, which I will tie this in because again, as you grow older and you enter this Hollywood world, God, you have to have your senses with you. You have to understand how much bullshit there is. You have to stay safe and have total awareness. And I say that because I'm going to lead up to the P. Diddy party. So growing up, we'd go to the concerts, we would go to the hotels. And honestly, you know, again, these girls trying to rip my coats off, rip my jacket off. It's actually terrifying. Everyone trying to rip your passes off. And these boys were so innocent. They were so sweet. They were not looking for girls. They were not looking for girls' underwears. They literally were just playing with toy trucks. Ricky Martin, who was amazing, obviously at the time, you know, we pretended we were boyfriend and girlfriend. Like he would call me his girlfriend on tour. I mean, you guys, it was the cutest. Like it was amazing. And we had so much fun. And what I realized was, again, this bullshit of what you're seeing on stage, what you're seeing in the press and on the news, and then what you're seeing behind closed doors, because they actually were very innocent and not what you thought. So growing up, obviously, in all of that, being around all of that, I always wanted to be in the industry. I always loved Hollywood. I always loved movies. I always loved, you know, I just love this make-believe world that you could live your real life, but yet live in this like other crazy world. So I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be in movies. I wanted to be on TV shows. And that's what I was going to do. My mom constantly warned me, it's a dirty business. She's like, it's a dirty business. You're too nice for this. She would always tell me, you're too nice for this. And I was kind of like, Mom, what are you talking about? Like, you don't have to do things. Like, you hear about the casting couches. You hear about, you know, having to sleep around. You read the books about old Hollywood actresses and what had to be done, being dropped off at producers' hotel rooms. Or, you know, you hear, obviously, all of Harvey Weinstein go on, and Epstein, and you know, you start to see and hear, and you need to have this awareness of that. But when you're young, of course, you just think that you're invincible. You think nothing will ever happen to you, that you're smarter than everyone, and that you won't be tempted. Yes, when you are desperate for something, whether it's work, whether it's money, you will do things. And I think that's what's so scary about the industry, is that they can dangle this carrot in front of your eyes. And again, you watch celebrities, you watch the amount of money they're making, you watch the, you know, lavish lifestyles, and it's tempting, right? It's really tempting. So imagine someone's offering you that lifestyle or that opportunity. A lot of young girls will take it, and you don't realize that you're selling your soul, right? You don't realize what comes after that, right? So my mom would constantly tell me, you're too kind, you're too good for this. Like, you're too nice. You're never, and I was like, Mom, it's fine. Until it's not. I had been going to acting school. I graduated from the acting school. I had done, you know, whether it's guest appearances, some soap operas, you know, commercials, blah, blah, blah. Nothing big, nothing huge. And my big break really came with a Spanish soap opera. I had to move to Miami. I had to go live on my own and go shoot this. And that's really when I started to, you know, understand being on your own and having to make major moves, major decisions, and then the people that surround you and what that means. And it's interesting when we watch TV and watch movies, and I don't want to ruin this for anybody, but once you get on set and once you get and you start meeting these people, it does blow the illusion of Hollywood. Like, it just does. For me, it was never the same. I mean, I now watch movies and I'm just thinking about the set, the director, like where people are moving, what are they doing, the special effects, are they lip syncing somebody else's lines? Like, right, you start to see all that goes on, right? The magic is gone, right? And then when you start seeing how producers talk to you or directors talk to you, or you start seeing or understanding what this couch is all about, you know, it fucking destroys the magic. It really does. So I get to LA, so I do the Spanish soap opera, and let me tell you something. The Spanish soap opera was hotter behind the scenes. There was so much shit going down on this set. Like, literally all the producers, like directors, all the actors, everybody's hooking up. Half of the fucking crew is married, but yet flirting, hooking up. I think somebody got pregnant. Like, this wasn't even in the soap opera. Like, soap opera was one thing, the behind the scenes. And I used to always say there should be a show about the behind the scenes of a soap opera, because it's actually a better soap opera. So yes, when you're wondering what's going on these sets, let me tell you something. What I saw wasn't pretty. Everybody was hooking up. Everybody was disrespecting their loved one at home. Not everybody, but most people. And it was honestly quite depressing when you kind of just saw just how kind of gross it all was, to be brutally honest with you. Like, you kind of realized kind of how sketchy everyone is. And it kind of blew my whole, when I always said I didn't want to get married, watching my parents, imagine now being on these sets and seeing this kind of bullshit. I was kind of like, you can't trust anybody. It's so dirty. It's so ugly. I don't want to know. I don't want to see this. So we get through the soap opera. I very luckily got through that unscathed. And I think it's because obviously it was a Latin television. People knew my dad, and I think people were very careful with me. So I was very grateful for that. But we saw the disrespect. We saw the lying, the cheating, and it was awful, you guys. You'd see their, counterparts come to visit set, and then you'd see, who's hooking up with who. It was awful. I personally hated it. So moving on from there, we get to LA, start getting juicier. Get to LA, and I'm here by myself. It's probably like the second day here. And yes, growing up, again, we would travel with my dad. We would see Tom Cruise. We would see, we knew Steve Wynn from Vegas. Like, my dad knew a lot of powerful people. We would have to go to dinners. We would have to go to things. And let me tell you something, not everybody is so appropriate. Okay. And I will tell you a Steve Wynn story. I'm probably going to get how much I'm going to tell today. God knows what's going to happen. So as I got older, came to LA, finished the soap opera. I move here because I get signed with ICM, and I move out here, don't know anyone, move into an apartment, and literally find a little nail salon. Okay, so like only in LA. Find a little nail salon, and who's sitting next to me getting their nails done? Renee Zellweger. So if you guys don't know Renee Zellweger, she was big for me growing up. She was like a huge star at the time. Bridget Jones' Diary. I could name 100 movies. And she was just sitting there quietly, whatever. And she said hi. And for whatever reason, we just started chatting. And it was one of those things of like, how random. We started chatting. I told her I just moved here. I didn't know anybody. I was brand new. We were talking about me being Cuban. She loves Cuba. We started talking about Spanish. And like, guys, we had like the best conversation, to the point where she ends up inviting me to her birthday party. And I was like, what? And she's like, you don't know anybody. You need to come. And I was like, really? And I was like, she's kidding. Get home. I get a phone call from her assistant saying that you're invited to Renee's birthday party. You're allowed to bring a +1. And it's like, there's 3 security checks, like bring your ID. You cannot bring anyone else. Do not tell anybody about the party. Everybody's very secretive in Hollywood. So Renee's having her birthday party at the place she used to waitress before she became famous, before she got the Tom Cruise movie. So she rented out the whole place, which I thought was amazing. And she was having the party there. I call my best friend from New York, Diana from high school, who's as fun comes. And I knew she would jump on a flight. So I was like, listen, we're going to Renee Zellweger's birthday party. Get your ass to LA. She comes to LA. We get all decked out. We go to the party, you guys. It's like this little hole in the wall. And there's 3 checkpoints. We're like, where are we going? We get inside, and mind is blown. You guys, I walk up to her to say, hi, happy birthday. She's talking to Tom Cruise and George Clooney. So I was like, hi. She introduced me. I'm like, this is just nuts. And so she's like, have the best time. Go enjoy yourself. I was like, God, some people are nice. You guys, we were dancing on the dance floor with the entire cast of Saturday Night Live. It was one of those things, Tom Cruise, like George Clooney, every possible celebrity she's been in a movie in with. It's like Will Ferrell, everybody was there. We're all dancing, drinking, having the time of our lives. And it was just this one moment that I remember thinking, it's such a great memory, that it's like one of those things that you're like, this would never, ever happen anywhere else. It's like only in fucking LA would this happen. And 2, that there's still really nice people out there. You know what I mean? Like, you meet a lot of these celebrities. Obviously, we're living in California. You see them all day, every day, everywhere. That's the truth. And you go to school with them. You go to preschool with them. You go to baby classes with them. You see them at the doctor, the grocery store, everywhere you go. And the truth is, they're not always, sometimes it is very disappointing, and it isn't always what you think. So to meet somebody who was just so genuine, so nice, was honestly just a great experience. And that's one of John's favorite stories, because he was like, only you would be getting your nails done and somehow end up with Tom Cruise and George Clooney at a birthday party with Renee. I was like, I know. That's how it works. So you guys put yourself out there. Anyway, continuing on. So I just want to say Renee Zellweger, amazing human being. So from there, you guys, let me tell you the P. Diddy story, because P. Diddy, this is a hot topic right now. And I feel like it's really important to talk about, especially with like even just safety and gut instincts, because I know so many of us, so many young girls it all sounds fabulous. Like, I know it does. These big Hollywood parties, these big, these trips on the white party on the boat, or white party in the Hamptons, or, you know what I mean? These after parties of the VMAs and all this stuff. And you hear about all these celebrity parties, especially the Diddy ones. And guys, when it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I've been on a spiral. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've been on a fucking spiral on TikTok. This is why they need to ban TikTok, because I went down a black fucking hole. And when you're watching all of this, you guys, like, again, being in LA, would we go do Sky Bar all the time? Would you be sitting with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire and all these guys and all their 100 guy friends that they would hang out with? Yes, like, it is constant. Like, this is what you're around. And to be young and impressionable, and you're sitting at the Sky Bar surrounded by huge celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio, like, yes, would you maybe go home and like go to that next party? I personally never did, believe it or not. I don't know if it was my street sense. I don't know if it was my street smarts from growing up in New York City and always being extremely aware. I don't know. There is something about my upbringing in New York City that I do think made me so tough and so strong and so aware, because again, I'm going to just sidetrack really quick. When I went to college, I was probably the only one who would rip all of my friends out of fraternity houses, out of bad situations. I was always very like, let's go, everyone together, no one left behind. I mean, you would have thought I was a sniper. I was like, everyone, let's go. And I was always like very much safety. Like, I am all about safety. So again, I've actually always listened to my gut instinct. I think there is something about gut instincts that people think it's butterflies. You think it's excitement. I actually usually think it's a warning sign, and it's usually your body trying to tell you something. And for me, like, when you have that little bit of anxiety or that little bit of like something doesn't smell right, doesn't look right, it probably isn't. And I just want to remind young women and women today, we are not living in a safe world. We have to protect ourselves. We have to listen to our gut instincts. They are everything. I can't repeat it enough. Those little things you feel in your stomach is your gut instinct. Listen to them. When something feels off, if you feel uncomfortable in any way or unsafe, or again, a drink doesn't smell right, doesn't taste right, or you're feeling a little alone or uncomfortable, there's a lot of men and it's only you and your friend, again, I will constantly remind you to please take care of yourself and protect yourself. There is no money, no fame, no fucking anything that is worth your self-respect, you selling your soul, and regretting this for the rest of your life. So I just want to put that out there, because honestly, I have seen some of the darkest things and heard about some of the saddest stories, and they are real. And it's people like me and you. It isn't some girl it's not just like a prostitute on the street. No offense to prostitutes, but it isn't like this, this desperate situation. These are these are like, girls that are trying out for a movie, are coming from good families who do have everything going for them. You don't need this. You need your brain. You don't need some guy or some celebrity. So continuing on, there's a relationship that gets called off. Okay. We break off a relationship, and we had planned to go to St. Bart's. This is the P. Diddy story. Okay. So coming up in LA, like I told you, I moved to LA. We start going out. I see that Renee Zellweger. I start going to my acting class. I start meeting, obviously friends. I've got my whole Australian crew who I love. We start, some of them are Australian celebrities. And so we start hanging out. And again, as you start meeting people, as you start meeting friends, especially in LA, you start bumping into everyone. You start seeing everyone. You start going to the parties. You start being in the scene a bit. I was lucky in that sense that I did meet people and have friends that were well connected. So you start going to these things, you start seeing these things, right? You start going to all these parties. You're seeing Leo, you're seeing Toby, you're seeing, whether it's Brad Pitt. I mean, I've had so many fun stories of like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going all over the place, but like, I feel like I have so many stories to tell you. Like even I was an intern at MTV, and literally the VJ from MTV, I don't know if you guys will ever remember him, but he was a VJ at MTV, and he invited me to the premiere for Brad Pitt's movie, and everyone's like, you can't take an intern, and I was like, I'm fucking going. And yeah, I went to the fucking premiere, was sitting with Brad Pitt, hanging out, Like, it's one of those things that I find myself in some crazy situations. And thank God, again, I have my head on my shoulders where it never gets taken too far. I end up in these places, but I always walk away because, again, my gun instinct always tells me something's up. So just so you understand, like, all the kind of people you're meeting, like, we really are in this Hollywood scene. You are meeting, seeing, and hanging out with these people. So relationship breaks off. We had tickets to go to St. Bart's. We were going for Christmas vacation. Obviously, the whole situation was awful. It was devastating. And very luckily for me, he wanted me to have the tickets. He thought I was probably going to take my mom because I was so upset and depressed. And he wanted us to have a nice vacation because it was a real shit show. And I personally was like, who the fuck is taking their mother? I'm taking my best friend, my friend Jenny. We jumped on a flight, literally. I think he had a nervous breakdown when he realized that I wasn't taking my mother, I was taking a friend. But anyway, we jump on the plane, we get to St. Bart's. You guys, we're staying at the best hotels. We're on this flight, and we did not realize Russell Simmons' wedding. It's Russell Simmons' wedding to Kimora Lee on St. Bart's. We're on a plane, and you remember these, if you guys have never been to St. Bart's, this was my first time ever, my one and only time I've ever been there. And you take this tiny mini plane, and the mini plane lands, and it looks like you're going to crash into the ocean. It is the craziest landing, I think, on the planet. We are on a plane with all hip hop stars. Like, when I say it's all rappers, like, it's me and Jenny, and then probably 10 huge rappers in this plane. Everyone's holding hands. Everyone is screaming. Everyone thinks the plane's going down. Anyway, long story short, we get there. And at the airport, I mean, you were seeing Bon Jovi. You're seeing, like, it's every music mogul you could imagine. Again, it's Russell Simmons' wedding to Kimora Lee. So we are like, what is happening? Me and Jenny are like, oh God, this is going to be fun. So we get to the hotel, we check in. It is so luxurious. I was like, oh, I got hooked up. I was like, we have the best vacation. I was like, let's rock it, baby. And I was like, see, ladies, you don't have to be depressed after a breakup. You make the best of it. Okay. So we get to the islands, we check in, and we go for dinner. And Jenny and I, of course, there's a table full of like guys and girls. We end up chit chatting. You're on vacation on an island. You've got a tan. Of course, you're talking to people at the table next door. So of course, it's like the tennis pro of the island. Of course, it's the tennis pro. So good looking. Okay. Hot tennis pro, all of his friends. And they invite us out to go to some party. So we end up all going to like the club next door. We all hang out. We end up going back to the hotel. They come to visit us the next day, and we become really good friends with the tennis pro and all his friends. Like, it was hilarious, you guys. So they're so nice. They're great. So good looking, by the way. I'm going to say it again. And so they come to hang out with us, and they're like, hey, we've got a party tonight. P. Diddy's in town. It's an all white party. And basically it's on his yacht. Then he's like, and then we're going to go to this other party. It's my client on her yacht. The yachts are next door to each other. And I was like, where are we? What world are we living in? And me and Jenny are like, let's hit the yachts. Let's hit the port, baby. So we get dressed. We get zhuzhed up. They come to pick us up. We get to the first boat for drinks. It is fucking JP Morgan's boat. Okay. Not boat. Gigantic yacht. Okay. So we get to JP Morgan's boat, and his wife is Sonia Morgan from Housewives now. Okay. This Sonia was like in her 20s. So I knew her back then. So the boat next door, you start seeing the party happening, and you're like, oh, okay. All of a sudden you hear Bon Jovi. He's like, sup, girls? I was like, what? I love Bon Jovi. You guys, I love John Bon Jovi. Me and Jenny were like, holy fuck. Okay, this is getting good. So you can imagine how any girl would fall for, I mean, you would. You're seeing some of your fucking favorite celebrities, and you're kind of like, what world are we living in? And how did I get here? Anyway, I'm here now, so we're going to make the most of it. To Bon Jovi, I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, are you guys coming over to the boat? We're like, yeah, we are. Okay, so of course, we get the tennis pro, we go over to the boat, and we get on. Don't worry, we go later to a club with JP Morgan. You don't need to worry. So we all walk over to the Diddy's boat, okay? It's the white yacht, white Diddy party. Yes, the famous, this wasn't a freak off party because I didn't see any freaking off, but it was the white party. We get on the boat. We're walking on. We kind of walk through, you know, I mean, it's a yacht. I don't know. So you kind of walk into the main living room, and Diddy's right there. He literally is looking right at me. I'm walking in. We're face to face. He's like literally in front of me. And he looks at me. He's like, hey girl. He's like, it's been forever. He's like, I missed you. Where have you been? And I literally was like, who the fuck does he think I am? Like, I can't even imagine who he thinks I am. I'll take it. And I was like, I of course played along as you do. I was like, yeah, I was like, I've been good. Good to see you. Miss you too. Jenny looked at me like I was insane. And he was like, yeah, I'll catch you later. I was like, yeah. Meanwhile, he did not catch me later. Thank God. But we have not had a drink. Okay. We did not sip anything. We had walked in. We're kind of walking around. We're taking it all in. It's kind of overwhelming. It is all huge celebrities and, musicians and music stars. So it is kind of like a lot to take in. I don't know how it's exciting, but it was also a little scary because you're like, it's a lot of money, a lot of power. You kind of are like, it's a lot of girls, a lot of alcohol. You know what I mean? It's one of those that I was just kind of like, stay alert. Stay smart. And I don't know if that's New Yorker in me. That's just knowing all the bullshit that goes on. I was very street smart, but I was kind of like, game on. We walk into the room, we're standing there, and all of a sudden, the big Hollywood director, he was like, hey, you're gorgeous. His fiance is, when I say 3 feet away, not joking. And I was like, hey, and he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I was like, we're here. He's like, oh, you're in St. Bart. He's like, are you with your man? I was like, no. I was like, we just broke up. He was like, what idiot of a man would ever let you come to St. Bart's alone? And I was like, I don't know. He's probably an asshole, but all good. I'm having a great time. And he's like, is he Jewish? And I was like, yes. And he's like, well, let me show you what a real Jewish man is like in bed. And I literally was just staring at him. His fiance is 2 feet away. We're surrounded by people. He has never met me before. I'm a young girl. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not this old, like I'm in my mid 20s, and he's asking me to go in the other room and have sex with him so he can show me what a real Jewish man is like in bed. I literally was like, I'm sorry, what? I mean, I was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, he obviously does not know who he's dealing with. And I was like, said it again. And I go, absolutely not. I was like, no thanks. I was like, why don't you take care of your wife or your fiance, whatever she is? And he was like, all right, you're going to miss out. And I just walked away. At that point, you guys, I don't know what it was. I honestly felt really uncomfortable. And I said to Jenny, I was like, let's get out of here. And she's like, what do you mean? The party's getting good. I was like, the fact that a strange man just walked up to me and offered sex, doesn't even know me, and we just got here. I was like, I just can't imagine where this is going. I've been to Michael Bay parties, and let me tell you something. I've left early, and yes, friends wanted to stay because they thought maybe they were going to get a film, or maybe they were going to get the part, or maybe they were going to get something. Not me. I always left because watching older men with very young girls that are wasted and them taking advantage, I can't watch and I can't be a part of it. To me, zero interest. I'd rather never work a day in Hollywood and never sell my soul. That just wasn't something I was ever going to do. And guess what? My mom was right. At the end of the day, she was right, because I never really succeeded, because I really wasn't ever willing to sleep with people. And yes, we were asked and we were offered. Definitely asked to go on dates, definitely asked to take meetings, in inappropriate places or hotels or rooms. And no, I've had castings that were in hotels. I have never gone, always said no. I just have never done it, you guys. So I am very well aware. So I personally said to Jenny, I was like, we're out of here. And she was like, no, we're not leaving. I'm like, we're leaving. I was like, so thank God we never had a drink. We didn't stay. God only knows. The thought of what probably happened to a lot of the girls there is horrifying to me to think about, that we were lucky enough to get out and never go back. I've been asked to go to some parties. I was asked to go to the Playboy Mansion. You've watched the documentary on the savagery that went on at the Playboy Mansion. And I thank my lucky stars. I always said no. Nothing interested me that much that I would ever be interested in going to one of these parties and being taken advantage of. And it's always what happens. And I think women just don't understand, with this kind of money and power, what goes on. Men get away with murder. Women get away with murder, right? There is no accountability. And when these young girls are so desperate, the Harvey Weinstein, again, when I tell you that everybody knows about Harvey, we all knew not to go to his office or not to go to his hotel or not, That's not like unknown information. Like he was dangerous from the beginning. And we all knew never to meet any one of these executives alone in an office, ever. When I went out to dinner with my dad, with Steve Wynn, there were some powerful men that were friendly with Steve. And we went out for dinner with my dad. My dad was doing business with him. And he was very interested in me, even though he had known me as a child. Now I was a young woman, and we went out for dinner and kept talking to me, kept talking to my dad about me. Next thing you know, he got my phone number, don't know how. He was inviting me on trips to Europe, things like that. When I say these men with so much money and power, because women will sell their soul for a handbag, for the yacht in Saint Tropez, like you will sell your soul for that. The way you see yourself will change once somebody takes advantage of you like that. It will. It takes away your voice. It takes away your power. And, you know, yes, you have Steve Wynn calling, selling he wants to take you on a private plane all through Europe. I mean, maybe that's tempting to some people. I was like, are you fucking crazy? I was like, no. So it does go on, and they stalk you and they come after you and they're calling in the middle of the night. Like, it's creepy. It is scary, you guys. So I can't even imagine. And this is like Steve Wynn. So these Harvey Weinsteins, these Epsteins, these situations where, yes, you were going to these parties, something's going on there. Please be aware. Please know, please don't drink anything. Understand the environment you're in. Understand that there is no accountability or responsibility. Understand how unsafe that is. And please be aware, no party, no fucking Diddy party, no Weinstein party, no Miramax party, no fucking Hollywood party is worth you losing your self-respect and self-worth. I can promise you that. So that was my P. Diddy story, you guys. I have never again seen him. I don't know who the fuck he thought I was. Glad I did not hang. Glad I wasn't in any way drawn to him. I'm so glad that I was so turned off and walked away. But I want to remind women right now, because the Diddy story is such a hot topic. I am in a spiral about it because it's just so unnerving to understand that people really take advantage of young women and men like this. I want women to be smart. I want young boys to be smart. I talk to my boys constantly about it. I always say that no adult man would ever have an interest in a child, right? Like, no adult man should be hanging out with children. Like, I don't have an interest in hanging out with people's children. It's like, why would an adult want to do that? No adult ever needs your help in any way. They don't. They are stronger than you, smarter than you, more experienced than you. So I don't know why they would ever need help from somebody younger. Do you know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't make sense. I'm always like, don't be alone in a room with anybody. No man, no woman. Like, always have a friend, always have somebody, always have a witness. You know what I mean? If something doesn't feel right, leave. Say something. Don't drink things at parties without you opening it, again, because everyone is drugging everybody now. Apparently that's a hot thing to do. So again, it's just having that awareness, because it's happening right now. We're seeing it in real time. We're hearing all the stories. I really want women to wake up and understand that this goes on at all times, whether it's in college, whether it's in high school, you know what I mean? Whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in Hollywood. People in power with a lot of money take advantage. So you have to protect yourself, and no money or job or fame is worth it. So I just wanted to say that, but we're going to continue on because we have more stories. You guys, I know everybody wants the Michael Jackson story. Oh, Lordy. You guys, I realize now, telling all these stories, I was like, I've been around some crazy fucking shit. I could go on and on because, there's just so many stories. I've been around so many people. We've been friends with a lot of celebrities that, again, take you to parties, take you to things. Like, I had forgotten about the Michael Bay, where I was like, everybody out of here. I was so annoyed with my friend because she wanted to stay. And I'm like, you are an idiot. I was like, we're out of here. So it was one of those things that, I was always super aware and would get into these situations. I've been at the dinner table with the heads of Universal, with the heads of they're all talking to different girls, celebrities. They're cheating on everybody. When you kind of see it all, I've been around it all. I just was never impressed by it because I realized what bullshit it all was, right? So I even was asked out. Wait, you guys. Yeah, Friends audition. I went to a Friends audition. I got to executive producers, which means you're at the final. It was between me. It was between me and this girl. And next thing you know, the executive producer is asking me for dinner. And I was like, what? I was like, I really just want the part. I was like, and no, I didn't get it. I didn't go. So yes, it does happen. Another one. I auditioned for Survivor. I know. I know. You guys aren't shocked at all, are you? This person was going to go on Survivor. Okay, season 10. I went in, I was cast, and 2 weeks before leaving for Survivor 10, Les Moonves actually switched the cast around. But before that, I was sequestered. I sent in my tapes. I was sequestered for a week. Actually, it was 10 days. And you have to, every single day is casting. So this is just another fun Hollywood story, just if you want to know behind the scenes of like a reality show. And it was interesting because once again, someone's always flirting with you. That's the thing. That's the reality of Hollywood. So I sent in my tapes for Survivor. This asshole thought that she was going to somehow survive on an island for a month with no food or water and bugs. I don't know who I thought I was, but at that point, I thought I was Rambo, and I actually thought I was going to win. So I sent in the tape, and I sent in the tape as Legally Blonde, like her admissions tape to Harvard. That's how I did the Survivor tape, like me being ridiculous, like floating on the pool and like pretending like I knew what I was talking about. So it was actually really funny. And they called me in. I went through the first meeting. Then I went to the second meeting with all the casting. Then I was asked to stay late. I went to the head of casting. And then I got the call that I was going to be sequestered for 10 days. So that's usually how it works. So basically you apply. They call, you do a phone audition, then an in-person audition, then the head of casting audition. Then I got the call that I was in the final 50, something like that. Then we get sequestered and we have to meet with executives every day. So how they do the sequestering is like you kind of meet with execs every day and you basically audition every day. And if you keep going each and every day, if you keep auditioning, it means that you're moving forward. If you stop auditioning, if you start to realize like you're sitting in your hotel room for 2 or 3 days, usually that meant that you were no longer being considered. So I was always up, dressed and ready every single day. And I very fortunately made it through the entire, so I was called up every day. And on the last day, so I met Jeff Probst, I met Mark Burnett. Obviously you meet all of the producers, you meet everyone. And you're sequestered in this hotel. They basically call your room. You cannot leave your room. You literally have 30 minutes to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you get 30 minutes to work out at the gym. That's it. Then you're in your room for 10 days straight. And so they would call, the phone would ring, and that would be like, come to the 8th floor. So that would mean come up to the casting. So one day they called me and they told me to put on a bikini and come to the 8th floor. And I was like, what? And they were like, just put a bikini on and come. And I was like, why would I be in a bikini? I was like, I'm not understanding. And they were like, you're going to be on a beach. Like, this is Survivor. And I was like, I know, but like, I can't wear short. Like, why am I in a bikini for an audition with everybody? And they're like, well, they want to see what you're going to be on. You know, like, just put the fucking bikini on. I was like, fuck. And so I put the fucking bikini on, but I put a jean skirt because I refused to just wear the bikini. I was like, this is outrageous. So I go in the room. It is all of the producers, all of the casting. It's like 20 people in this room and I'm strutting in a bikini. I literally was like, oh, hey guys. I was like, I just happened to be strolling through the hallway in a bikini. I thought I'd come say hi. I was like, this is just so ridiculous, like what I'm wearing. So they all started laughing and like we kind of sat. And at one point, Mark Burnett asked me, he was like, so what is this little white blonde girl like how do you think you're gonna win? And so I gave my answer. And Jeff Probst was like, so we're going to date after this, right? And Mark Burnett looked at him and he was like, Jeff, can we just wait till the fucking casting's over or whatever? He's like, no, I think we're going to date. He's like, I have a feeling we're going to date. And I literally looked at him. I was like, well, let me win Survivor first. I was like, and then we'll talk about a date. I'll take you out. I was trying to like be smart about it. And I was like, that's the shit that goes on in these castings. Okay. We're trying to cast for a real show. There's 20 producers in the room. You're in a bikini and the star of the show is telling you you're going to date. And it's just like, it's all this kind of like uncomfortable, inappropriate shit that goes on. John, till this day, if he sees Jeff on a commercial for Survivor, he goes, bastard. Every time, because I was dating John at the time. But that was supposed to be kept secret because they did not want me to have a boyfriend. So I had to be single, even though it was a reality show. So there you have that. Anyway, we actually were up for Amazing Race also. So just so you guys know, they asked me to do The Bachelor. I said no. Amazing Race, we said no because they wanted to do a family edition. So John and I love this shit. But when I went for Survivor, I had just met John and we had just started dating. And so when I told him that I had met somebody and I was like, we were so in love, even though we had just met, we were so in love. And the producers are like, no, we need you to be the single one. And I was like, fuck. So anyway, that's that story. But let's continue on to Michael Jackson. Okay, so another crazy story. I had Thanksgiving dinner with Michael Jackson. Okay, guys, this is what's fascinating. And this is what I observed. Okay, somebody who grew up watching him, grew up listening to him, grew up going to his concert. I honestly loved him. Like, I really did. We were huge, huge fans. Okay, I was definitely in my 20s. And my sister's husband is a doctor. So he was always in medicine, and he works with a lot of celebrities. He does very specific work with veins and varicose veins and stem cells and like a lot of for healing. He's brilliant. He's done incredible work. And he was working with Liza Minnelli, and she introduced him to Michael Jackson. So Michael started going to him and became, you know how Michael did it, right? It becomes your right-hand man. You watch the documentaries on Michael now, and you know, it's so hard to watch because I watched it firsthand. I watched the way he worked and how he just takes over and how he just manipulates and controls to the point where he's controlling you, your life, and your whole family. It's really sad and overwhelming. But anyway, at the time, they were working together. And of course, I guess it became like he does. He starts taking over. It's like his main client. He's with him 24/7. He's traveling with him. And, you know, I really don't know much. I know he was like kind of working with him, but like I didn't really know what was going on. I was in college having a good time. Like I wasn't really thinking about it. It's Thanksgiving. I fly to Miami. There had been the huge scandal. It was like one of the first scandals about him being a sexual predator, a pedophile. I think some kid had come out and he was in hiding. Okay, so he had gone into hiding from all of the bad press and all of the allegations. So I fly home to Miami for Thanksgiving, and I always go home. I always see the family. We always, you know, eat together, whatever. And I called my sister and I was like, hey, I was like, you know, can I come over and see the kids? And she was like, no. She's like, they're not feeling good. They're sick. Like, she's like, I'll let you know, like, call me tomorrow. Call her the next day. No, they're sick. Third day, I was like, I only have like 3 more days left and it's Thanksgiving. Like, I'm coming to see them. I don't care if they're sick. It's fine. And she was like, fine, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was like, what? She was like, Michael Jackson is living with us. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, listen, he's going through a really hard time. And like, he moved in and he's in hiding and he's living in the garage, which is a movie theater. They had transformed it into a movie theater. So he was living in the garage and living in their house. And I was like, let me get this straight. I was like, the king of pop is living in your movie room. I was like, right. I was like, okay, so how do I see the kids? How am I doing this? Because this all sounds insane, but I'm only here for a couple of days and I really want to see the kids. So she was like, okay, let me just talk to Michael. She's like, we just got to get approval for you to come over, whatever. I was like, approval? I was like, I'm coming over to see my family. This is crazy. So she was like, okay. Let me just get back to you. Anyway, I get approval to come over and I'm like, what could possibly be going on? I don't understand. So I get there, there's security, there's bodyguards, whatever. I go in and my sister's there. Like, I say hi, the kids come out, like I'm hanging out with the kids and like, we're kind of talking. And I'm like saying to her, I was like, what is going on? I'm like, I don't understand. And she was like, he's been taking care of him. He just needed a safe place, away from the press and all this stuff. So we let him stay here. And I was like, all of a sudden, the door to the movie room opens and I hear like shuffling of shoes. And I was like you freeze, like you honestly freeze when you think Michael Jackson's coming around the corner. I was like that. If you're seeing this on YouTube, that's what I look like. So I was like, okay. And so he comes around, goes into the kitchen, opens the fridge, gets something out of the fridge, looks over, says hello in a very high-pitched voice. I literally was like, hi. And he went back in the room. I was like, what the fuck just happened? So he looks, it's like you don't want to look straight in the eye because it is uncomfortable. He definitely had a crazy ass outfit on. Like it was like towards, the end when he was wearing like the crazy harem pants with like the jackets. And then he had like a piece of tape holding his nose up. And he was very pale, very thin. I mean, it was just crazy to see. Anyway, so he goes back in the room. He's like playing all his music, which I found fascinating. Like he would just play his music on repeat. And I was like, okay. Then his kids came out of one of the rooms with the nanny or nannies. And I found that shocking because they did not have their masks on. And at this point, they were only in masks in public, which is probably why you needed approval to get in there or whatever, because no one had ever seen the kids. So at that point, I saw the kids and I realized, obviously, he had nothing to do with it. They were blonde, blue-eyed. You could tell. You know what I mean? You were kind of like, oh, this is interesting. I was like, this is juicy. So, we're hanging out, whatever. And I ended up seeing the kids, did not see him again. And I picked up, I left. And she calls me and says that Michael invited me for Thanksgiving dinner. And I was like, what? And she's like, he asked if you wanted, to join us. And she's like, mom and dad can't come. And I was like, what do you mean mom and dad can't come? So my parents were not invited, but I was approved to come. Get there. And I was like, I told my mom, I was like, obviously I'm going to go. Like, you're not passing up the opportunity. I have to check this out. So I go to dinner and I'm just blown away, you guys. I don't even know how to really explain it. I don't know if you really can explain being in a room with him or being that close to him, because I think you always have such a perception of him. And I think with celebrities, you always have this vision and you never want to destroy that magical vision. But it does when they're in person, right? Because you're seeing like I don't know, it's so weird. So we're kind of chatting. He had like a friend over, like a family friend. I don't know who the person was, like two of his friends. And then my sister, her husband, the kids. And I sit next to him, you guys. He asked me to sit next to him. So I sit next to him at Thanksgiving dinner and, we're all sitting. It is surreal, okay? The tape holding his nose up in a crazy outfit. He doesn't speak in that high-pitched voice in person. Like, he actually talks quite normal, which I found fascinating. I was like, oh, he puts on a show. And he's actually very well-spoken. So you're kind of like, oh, he puts on a show for the press, like he does. And it's like, it felt like all a game, because he was very much like, hi, so what do you do? Like, oh, so you're an actress? Like, that's great. Where did you study? He was asking me a million questions, talking perfectly normal. And then it was interesting. He started being like, the friend that was next to him, he's like, she looks like Lisa Marie, doesn't she? Saying that I look like Lisa Marie, his ex-wife. And I was like, what? And so the friend was like, oh yeah, she does. And whatever. He's like, yeah, you look like my ex-wife. And I was like, okay. And then they were talking about Scientology. And he's like, oh, remember the Scientology? He was making fun of Scientology and like making a joke out of it. So it's like he very much is well aware of everything that's going on in the press. He's well aware of like what he's doing. He's very meticulous. You could tell. Like, he's no fool. And I think with that sweet, soft voice, he looks, I don't know, like he's not you know what I mean? He looks not like sweet and innocent, but he's not. He was very strong and smart and knew what he was doing, which I just think is interesting when you hear of everything that comes out. So we're sitting there and he's like talking to me about work and this and that and telling me I look like Lisa Marie. So anyway, we left. I leave, go back to college. My sister calls and says that Michael invited me. He was renting out Disney World and wanted to know if I wanted to come. I said no. I said, I don't want any part of this. I said, I told, my sister got very upset with me. And I was like, nothing smells right. I was like, I'm not understanding. I was like, I don't want to go to Disney World. It's all good. She's like, oh, whatever. I was like, I have to get back, I have to get back to school. Just say I have to get back. I can't go. So I get back home. Don't do Disneyland. I get a call for my sister's going to LA, and she said, Michael invited you to Neverland. And I was like, what? I mean, literally, I was like, what is going on? Invited me to Neverland for dinner with, get this, Brett Ratner. So now we know the comedian, and like one other person, and my sister and husband and whatever, and the kids. I was like, absolutely not. And my sister was like, they want to help you with your career, and he wanted you to meet Brett and this guy, and to be in the movie, whatever. I was like, no, thanks. I already met Brett in St. Bart's, so that's probably not going to work out for me. I was like, so that's a hard pass. And she's like, don't you want to see it? Don't you want to be there? I was like, I mean, yeah, do I want to see it? But like, not under these circumstances. I was like, I don't want any part of this. I was like, I really don't. And so they got upset with me. It was kind of tense. Michael ends up leaving my sister and her husband because my sister's husband would not medicate him. He wanted to be medicated and he wouldn't. He was trying to get him clean. And unfortunately, once they parted ways, after a lot of gifting and showering them with gifts and a lot of all the bullshit you see and hear, it is what happened. I saw it with my own eyes. But he went on to the next doctor, and it's the next doctor that he passed away with. So unfortunately, it was after that. So it had nothing to do with my brother-in-law, thank God. But I do think they were victims of his in the manipulation. I watched the manipulation and destruction of his power and fame because, again, money and power and fame blind you. Like, they blind you, even the best of people. And it's intoxicating, but it's not worth it. It is never worth it. And I'm just so grateful that, again, I walked away from these really crazy situations from gut instincts, from knowing how just dangerous it could all be, that it was just too good to be true. Like, okay, I'm going to go to Neverland and Brett Rana's going to put me in a movie and I'm going to become a famous star and date Michael Jackson. Like, what? Like, obviously not. So it's one of those where, again, if you just really take the time to think about it and really say it again out loud to yourself, does it make sense? Does this really seem real? You know what I mean? This industry is dirty. It's ugly. Yes, it can be fun. It can be lucrative. It can be incredibly adventurous, but there is a dark side. And again, something like Weinstein, something like Epstein, this is the reality of what's going on. Diddy, the music world, like, it is dirty. It is ugly. Nothing good happens after midnight. That's what my mom always told me. And it's the truth. Like, that after party, nothing good is happening there. And again, once you put yourself in those situations, they're really hard to get out of. They really are. So I really wanted to share some of the crazy stories and experiences that I've witnessed, that I have been a part of, because as fun and glamorous as it all sounds, I can tell you I have been on many sets where every single actor that you would think you'd be dying to be on that show, they all fucking hate it. Like, they all hated each other. They all hated the show. And it's just funny, the illusions that we have at home of what's going on. And there really is an ugly, dark side to it. So I always want everybody who has their eyes just lit up thinking about the industry and thinking about getting into the industry, I just want to remind you to please be safe, to please always listen to your gut instinct, that no real meetings are happening in a hotel room or in a hotel. There should always be, your manager or your agent should always be invited to come and should be there with you. These late night parties, just know that nothing good happens after midnight. So do not go to the next party. Always have your location and everything on, and do not drink anything that you did not personally open. I just want to remind you, you're incredible, you're smart, you're capable, you're strong. I am telling you that once these situations happen and we know people they have happened to, it changes you forever. And there is no acting job, there is no handbag, there is no trip or apartment or home or illusion in your head that is ever worth you getting hurt. So please be aware, please be smart. If it looks too good to be true, it is. So walk away and leave the party fucking early. I love you all so much. I hope this was fun. I have so many more stories to tell. It's just been an incredible 50 years, and I feel so grateful and so lucky to have come out unscathed, to be honest with you. So I hope you always protect yourself and put yourself first. You are so worth it. We will be back next week. And please like, review, follow, show us some love. I love you guys. Mwah. Have the best week ever.